Here with all reaction to tonight's big developments, the price of principle, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz, along with Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. Professor, let me begin with you because there are distinct differences, and this goes back to Hillary Clinton as well, although I would argue the deletion of 33,000 emails, the use of bleach bit, Hammer's devices, missing SIM cards, that brings up a whole obstruction angle and the sheer volume of documents. But the main question is neither Joe Biden nor Hillary Clinton had the right to declassify. Do you know of any system that exists currently, any law that exists currently that mandates that a president declassify in any specific way? Because I'm not aware of one.
There is none. That's clear. It's a gap in the law. The law should provide that there's some documentation. The classification. It can happen instantaneously. Apparently it did when President Bush years ago had a conversation and declassified something on the spot. But there is no criteria now. It's a pure question of evidence, and the burden of proof is on the government. So I do not believe the government is going to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the material that was in Trump's possession was actually classified. On the Biden side, there's another problem because the statute requires that the classified material be knowingly removed. That is, the person has to know it was classified and it was removed with an intent to retain it. And what Biden is going to claim is, I didn't know. It was just among other papers, proved beyond a reasonable doubt that I knew it was classified. That's why I have concluded after 50 years of litigating criminal cases, there will be no criminal prosecution of either Trump or Biden. The only reason the special prosecutors were appointed was to satisfy the appearance of justice, not the reality of justice.
I agree with your analysis. I think that's how it's going to end up being a wash. And I agree with you also, Professor, that this should be in law a specific means by which classification ought to occur by a president. But the reality is, Gregg Jarrett, is Donald Trump said on this program that he had the power to declassify any way he wanted to declassify. Right. Now, he got ridiculed and attacked for it, but the truth is he's right, isn't he?
Oh, he's totally right. It's an exclusive power contained in the Constitution through the Commander-in-Chief clause. And the vice president doesn't have that right, nor Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. I thoroughly agree with the president that, or with Mr. Dershowitz, that this will be a wash. But I disagree that intent and knowing and willful is the only standard. If you examine Section F of 18 U.S.C. 793, that also provides for gross negligence or carelessness. Well, the increasing number of locations where Joe Biden's classified documents have been discovered renders inadvertence implausible and instead seems to be the definition of recklessness, gross negligence under the statute. So I think legally there would be a fairly strong case. And look, President Biden's excuses in his bag of alibis, his whack-a-mole rebuttal to every newly discovered batch of documents is growing more and more preposterous. First, it was, inadvertence, and then it was the well-established, legally recognized Corvette defense. Then he had the arrogance to say that he had no regrets over declassifying or over national security documents that were jeopardized. So, as I wrote in a column today, what's his next excuse? Corn Pop did it? I mean, it's getting to the absurd.
It's getting to that point. Yeah. All right. Exit question for both of you. Professor, is there a double standard in the way that our government, no prosecutor would prosecute? That's Jim Comey in July of 2016. The way the media and Democrats are treating Biden, the way Donald Trump was treated with the raid. Is there a dual system of justice? I believe there is.
Well, I think there is certainly the reality and the perception that there is a dual system. Look, I do not think Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted. I don't think Trump should be prosecuted. I don't think Biden should be prosecuted.
You don't think deleting 33,000 emails like that was obstruction? Bleach bit? You ever hear of bleach bit? I never had.
Well, her claim is that they were personal emails and that she was not destroying classified material. That's an evidentiary
we'll take a
issue.
word for it.
If Comey had concluded that she had deliberately done all those things, I suspect he might have come to a different conclusion. But I want to make one more point. Why doesn't Biden declassify now? He has the power to declassify every one of them, and thereby we can know what was in the Ukrainian briefing, what was in the China briefing, so any doubts about that can be resolved. The names of agents can be redacted. This is years-old material. Classification no longer really applies. The need for classification doesn't apply. So let's get complete transparency.
We don't know what's in there. All right, I only have 15 seconds. I don't want to cut Greg short. Greg, you got the final word real quick.
Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted. The evidence was overwhelming. If you're going to prosecute David Petraeus, Sandy Berger, John Deutsch, and people in the military for far less, it was a terrible injustice not to bring a case against Hillary Clinton. But, you know, James Comey did this unbelievable legal pirouette, and so it said no prosecutor would bring such a case. Every prosecutor in America would have loved to have brought such an easy case.
All right, thank you both. Professor, thank you. Gregg Jarrett, thank you.